welcome back to the Curious Investor Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He's the co-host of the Ep.5 show and also the co-founder of Gold City Ventures. Today we have Cody Berman here. What's up, Cody?
What's going on, guys? Excited for this.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. We're big fans of your content online and big fans of your podcast as well. I wanted to first see if you want to introduce yourself and explain exactly who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so Cody Berman, like you said, also have a podcast, The Ep.5 Show, co-founder of Gold City Ventures, which we're probably going to be talking about a lot today because we're going to focus on digital products and all the passive income that you can make with those, productizing your knowledge, that type of stuff. I guess I'll give you the quick synopsis. I discovered the whole financial independence movement when I was 19 years old. I read the 4-Hour Work Week, and then I just dove in headfirst, found this whole community. I was in college at that point, went on to get a traditional job for a very long time, 7 months, and then quit to go full-time entrepreneur. And since then, I've built a bunch of businesses. Some have failed, some have succeeded. At this point, I'm financially independent by both cash flow FI standards and from the 4% rule, and I also invest in real estate. And it's been a wild ride. We can just dive into anywhere because I could have talked about myself for an hour, but let's dig in where I'm going to be most useful to your listeners.
Yes, specific. So one thing we do want to dive in. You are very diversified, is one thing that I've noticed. But one thing that we're specifically interested in, like you said, is your digital product business. I know you have a company, Gold City Ventures, that you have with the co-founder. I want to so you started out selling digital products online. What exactly did you do? What are those digital products?
The first ones I made, I sold on Etsy specifically. And so let me just back it up a little bit. My business partner, Julie, told me she was selling printables and digital downloads on Etsy. And I'm like, I didn't really know what that was. I'd never been on Etsy before. Etsy is majority women, and it still is to this day. And I'm just like a dude who sells stuff on there. But she was like, I made $6,000 last year. I spent about 50 hours creating those products. So did a little math. I'm like, $120 an hour return on your investment is pretty good. And she was still making more money from those digital products because, unlike a physical product, and I've been in physical products before, you don't have to package, you don't have to ship, you don't have to do inventory management. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give this a try. So a couple months after I opened my Etsy shop, my strategy was I was going to try to focus on seasonal trends. Like when Valentine's Day was around the corner, I'd have a bunch of Valentine's Day stuff ready in my shop. When graduation season was in full effect, I'd have graduation stuff. When Christmas was around the corner, I've had Christmas stuff because the keyword volume was just so much higher for those products. And I knew that from having a background in blogging and podcasting and SEO. So this is kind of just, my origin story and how I got addicted to Etsy and digital products. I was skiing in Lake Tahoe, and I had created a bunch of stuff for Valentine's Day. It was actually Valentine's week. I'm a Valentine's baby. So I was going on a trip for my birthday, and I was with a bunch of other people. And I had my phone on. I had the sound on my phone because I was waiting for someone to call me. And I kept getting this cha-ching sound. And I knew from my couple of sales at that point that I had on Etsy, that means I was getting sales. So we go in for lunch that day, and I had made over $100 from just a handful of these digital Valentine's Day products that I created. They were love coupons and cards that you give your significant other and little things where you put your partner's face in them. It was a bunch of just silly, cute stuff, I guess. But at the end of that week, I had made over $700 from basically 3 items. I had 3 items that really, really hit. So after that, I'm like, okay, this is sick. I spent maybe 2 or 3 hours per item creating them. I just made $700. It was my first real taste of passive income. Because up to that point, it was I was doing freelance writing, I was building websites, I was editing podcasts, I was editing video. I was doing every side hustle under the sun. I even delivered food on a bike for Uber Eats. I was hustling. But that was my first real taste of I'm not actively doing this thing and getting paid for this thing. And ever since then, I just kind of became addicted to digital products. And, since then, I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That must be an amazing feeling. While you're on vacation, you're making money to pay for your vacation.
It was sick. I was on the ski lift. It was amazing.
Yeah. So I wanted to backtrack a little bit. We know that you host the Financial Independence podcast. So we wanted to know how did you find out about financial independence? So you read the 4-Hour Work Week, but what really sparked your interest in financial independence and getting to that point in your life?
I think I became mildly obsessed with just Tim Ferriss and all of his teachings and the fact that you could outsource everything and you could build a scalable business. I think my first foray was I I don't really remember. I learned about Mr. Money Mustache somehow. Someone either sent me the article or I might have heard him on Tim Ferriss's podcast. I don't remember the exact release date of that. It was somewhere around 2016, maybe 17. And yeah, I just went full in. Like I just started reading everything. At that point, I didn't really know much about investing. My parents had taught me to save, but they didn't really tell me anything about the stock market or like how your money can compound. And so I was just like so enamored with these people that were in their 20s or early 30s who didn't have to work anymore. It seemed so far fetched because everyone that I knew in my immediate family and close friends, all of their parents were working, all of them were working. It's like, there's no way this is real. This must be some kind of scam. And then I actually went to an event in early 2018. It was my first time like meeting these, these freaks in person, these people that were retiring at 30 years old, and they were normal people and they weren't working, and it was amazing. And I'm like, okay, this is the real deal. This is legit. And I actually ended up starting the Fi Show a couple months after that event.
Yeah, so that's awesome. You mentioned Mr. Money Mustache, and we all know that he really pushes living frugally. And was that something that you, after reading up on some of his articles, you were very receptive to, and something that you do today?
So at the time, yes, I was extremely frugal, and I was 19. So I mean, you kind of have to be frugal unless you come from a ton of money. I was living like a college kid. Like I had 7 roommates. We had we had this house in college where we had 7 dudes in one bathroom. Like we were slumming it. I was paying like $300 a month in rent. And I mean that was my life at that point. So having that knowledge at 19 and continuing that through college, once I got out, I was still being as frugal as possible. I mentioned I worked in corporate for 7 months. I was saving over 90% of my income while I worked in corporate. I moved back in at home for 7 months for a pretty short stint. I was still driving the same car that I was driving in high school. I wasn't spending much on groceries. I wasn't really spending much on eating out or going out. I was just like doing everything as frugal as possible. But what that allowed me to do was I was able to save up almost 50 grand between, I got a signing bonus. I had a pretty decent corporate finance job. I was getting paid like $4,000 and change a month after taxes. So I was able to save like 50 grand, which allowed me, because my expenses were so low, I was spending between like 1,000 and 1,200 a month. I'm like, this is like 40 to 50 months of freedom to just try my hand at entrepreneurship if I can keep my expenses the same. So frugality played a huge role in when I first got started. Now I've definitely loosened up the reins a bit. I still don't spend much in the big 2, housing and transportation, but I probably spend a lot more than the average Ep.5 person on going out to eat, going to the bars, hanging out with friends, going on vacation, stuff like that. All the kind of experiential stuff.
But going into it, so I would like to kind of break it down how your journey went. So 2018, you graduated, right? You had that corporate job. How much were you making at that time?
So I got a $15,000 signing bonus, and then I was making 70 grand base. So if I stayed for the full year, I would have made like 85, and then there was a little bit of bonus at the end of the year. So maybe call it like high 80s straight out of school.
Okay. And so like I kind of want to break it down year by year, like until you reach financial independence. So
yeah,
the next year, what were you hitting, and what were you doing at that point?
Yeah, so this is kind of a crazy story. So I went all in 2018. I mentioned I went to that event. It's called Camp.5, January, right at the beginning of the year. Started my blog, started my podcast that year. And I was just like networking my ass off. I was meeting all these people, going to different events. I ended up going to FinCon, which is an event for financial content creators, podcasters, YouTubers, bloggers, and ended up meeting a ton of cool people. But the one really important person I met on the last night there was Grant Sabatier. He's the owner of MillennialMoney.com, author of Financial Freedom. I knew this guy. He was someone who was like one of those, quote unquote freaks that had retired at 30. He had saved up $1.25 million. And I knew his story. He was pretty big online. I just like walked up to him. We were both pretty drunk at this closing party. And we ended up talking for like 2 hours. And, we were just hitting it off, and I was telling him my story. And I was like, dude, I admire your story so much. I've been following your blog for a long time. And then I was like, let me know how I can help you. Like, I just want to work with you in any capacity. I want to learn from you. I was just getting started at that point. I didn't really know what I was doing. Wasn't making much money side hustling. So he was like, yeah, dude, hit me up. Let's stay in touch. I ended up emailing this guy 3 times before he answers me. So I'm like, he's just blowing me off. Like, he was just blowing smoke. He doesn't actually want to work with me or help me. But he finally answers me, and he's like, yo, I'm organizing a book tour for my book launch for Financial Freedom. can you help me organize it? I'm like, sure. Yeah, like whatever you need me to do, I'll do it, Grant. So I end up like making this massive Excel document with like 700 rows. I'm reaching out to venues across 90 cities across the US. Like it was crazy. So fast forward a couple months, he's like, yeah, so like thanks for organizing the book tour. You want to come on it with me? And I was like, you serious? And he's like, yeah. And so I thought again he was joking around. Thought he was just blowing smoke, but lo and behold, he invites me on this book tour. End up traveling the country with this guy for 3 months, living in like a Sprinter van together. And that was kind of the kickoff to my entrepreneurial journey, because I'd quit my job, and then a month later we went on this book tour. So that was like 2019, and throughout 2019 is when I just like, honestly, I think the biggest jump, it wasn't even like action that I was taking, but hanging out with someone like that who's making hundreds of thousands of dollars. He might have been even making millions of dollars per year at that point. I'm not sure. But his growth mindset, like I thought I had a growth mindset, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm so smart. I'm doing this entrepreneurship thing. Like other people aren't doing this. But this dude just shattered every ceiling that I was placing on myself. And so at the end of that year, after like just getting all these like mindset tips and stuff from Grant, I ended up launching 3 online courses as well, and just like more learning how to scale and how to grow businesses. Ended up making, what was it? I think it was just around 100K my first year in entrepreneurship. That was 2019.
And this is through what? Through digital, through Etsy and all that?
So Etsy was going at that point, also had a blog going, had a podcast. Okay. We had just launched 3 online courses, 2 of which have been shut down. What else was I doing at that point? I think I was still doing some like freelance stuff, just because it was kind of a scarcity mindset thing. Like I didn't have the confidence that like I could, have these passive income investments that are going to make me enough money every month. I thought I just had to be like actively hustling. So I was just like working 16 hours a day, doing every side hustle under the sun. Still in 2019, I kind of tapered off toward the end. But yeah, it was kind of just a whole smorgasbord of income streams in 2019.
Okay, and then those courses, they're mainly derived from what you were talking about in your podcast, and like you gained a little bit of influence through there, and that's how you were able to generate through the courses?
Yeah, so in mid-2019, I guess rewind a little bit, beginning of 2019, I reached out to Julie Berninger, who was another financial podcast host. She had the Fire Drill podcast back in the day, and I could just tell she was a go-getter, like super type A, go-getter, hustler, and I was kind of the same thing with Grant. I'm like, hey, let's collaborate on something. Let's do something together. I have like unlimited energy. I don't have kids. I have so much time. Like we could crush any venture. Basically, that was my pitch. And she's like, hit me up in a few months. Like I'm super busy at work. I'm like, all right, cool. So we end up linking up, and we're like, what can we do? We end up landing on online courses because, after learning so much from Grant, I'm like, this is like one of the most scalable things that you can build is productizing your knowledge into an online course. So we launched a blogging course, the Etsy course that I still run today, and a freelancing course all at the same time. For those who are listening, who are thinking about launching an online course, don't do 3 at once. It is the stupidest thing ever. We were just like spread so thin. We were trying to like manage these 3 courses. All of them had private Facebook groups. It was just an absolute mess. So we ended up shutting the freelancing course down first. The blogging course stayed around for about a year or maybe 9 months. And then legit 80%, maybe even 85% of the interest was in this digital products course that taught people how to sell digital products and printables on Etsy and on Shopify and other places as well. So that course just absolutely took off, and we started putting all of our eggs into that basket in the beginning of 2020.
Okay, nice. So it looks like 2019 was the year of building as much as you can at the same time, and then
trial
you
and
decided,
error.
Yeah, 2020 was where you kind of trimmed the fat or tried to look at what was most scalable, I would say.
Yes, what was working, and
yeah,
exactly. It was like, what can we spend our time on that's going to have the highest ROI versus me just like throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Okay, and you found that in that one course, and what else exactly?
So let's see. Beginning of 2020, I was putting a lot of effort into building this course out. Like we were re-recording videos. We were like starting to get real traction, and we were building up like our affiliate list. We were starting to get a lot of notoriety with our personal businesses as well. The podcast actually started to take off pretty decently in the beginning of 2020 as well. That's when we started to get like actual sponsors, and it wasn't just me randomly reaching out to a bunch of companies and getting no answers. The blog was actually still doing pretty good in the beginning of 2020. It's since tapered off a lot because I just don't like writing very much. I'm more of a video and podcast guy because I like talking. What else? Beginning of 2020, I didn't get into real estate, but toward the end of the year is when I bought actually a couple investment properties, so I won't fast forward too far. But yeah, most of the beginning of 2020 was just building out that online course, just getting our systems, email funnels, affiliates, landing pages, freebies, opt-ins, like everything that goes into having a successful online course. I mean, we did a lot of really crappy stuff too that didn't work, and we thought we were geniuses when we launched it, and then it just completely flopped. But that was kind of just like the A/B testing year where we really honed in. We put all of our time and energy into this one thing that was doing really well, and it paid off tremendously.
Okay, and so by end of 2020, how much were you making?
End of 2020, I think I ended the year with just around 200K. I think it was like 203K in total income.
So you started at 50,000. 2019 you doubled that to 100,000. 2020 you doubled that to 200,000.
Yeah.
Am I do I see a trend here? Are you going to double it on 2021?
You'll see a trend. So, but I didn't mention at the end of that year as well. So now I have, again, I'm still frugal. So I'm still not spending much on my housing and transportation, even to this day. And I am spending on travel and experiences and stuff like that. But it's not, it's not breaking the bank. If I'm making like 200K, spending 20, 25. So I had a lot of had a lot of disposable income to invest. So, I was maxing out. I was being responsible and maxing out like the traditional retirement accounts. I was maxing out my solo 401k and Roth IRA at the time, but I still had extra money to invest. And that's kind of where real estate came into play, because I saw a lot of people in our space, people I interviewed in my podcast, who were just doing amazing things with real estate. We had a couple on who I'm not good friends with, James and Emily Lowry from Rethink the Rat Race, and they retired in less than 2 years from rental properties. Less than 2 years, from 0 to FI in less than 2 years from a cash flow perspective. It was insane. I'm like, I could probably do this. Like, I read books, I listen to podcasts, I can watch YouTube. And so I just kind of, started jumping in. I got hooked up with a realtor who's now a really good friend of mine. I've actually partnered with her on some deals. And she just started sending me MLS listings every day in the zip codes that I wanted with certain criteria, like based on price and amount of beds and bathrooms and stuff. Me and my fiance Lauren probably saw 10 or 15 properties before we put in some offers too and lost. But until we got our first property, which this would be a whole nother podcast as well. We fully intended on house hacking it, getting the FHA loan, putting 3.5% down. Ended up getting basically screwed by our lender because I only had self-employment income and it didn't have a 2-year seasoning period. So we're going to close. We're 25 days away from closing. He's like, oh, hey, Cody, I actually can't count 90% of your income. And, I'm making 200 grand at that point. And my effective income went to 10,000 or something. It was ridiculous. So he's like, I can't give you a loan. So I ended up having to go the commercial loan route because there's a lot more kind of gray area and they can lend based on this year's performance rather than the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac 2-year seasoning period rules. Ended up getting that property, but for a lot bigger down payment than we wanted, $60,000 instead of $8,000 or whatever it would have been. But it was a home run deal. I think we got really lucky on that first deal in terms of a cash flow perspective. Just to give you some quick numbers, Central Connecticut bought it for $235. Today, I guess I'll give you numbers back then. We were living in the basement unit and renting out the top floors and bringing in $2,300 a month while we were living there. So even with us living there, we're almost hitting the 1% rule, which I'm sure you guys know, but for listeners who don't, basically the 1% rule is you want to get 1% of the purchase price in monthly income. So a $300,000 house should get $3,000 per month in monthly income. So we're almost at the 1% rule, taking in $2,300 a month, bought it for $235K. Once we move out, we're bringing in, I think it was $3,500 a month. And now today, that place brings in $3,700 a month. And, mortgage expenses, everything all in is $1,700. So that place crushes.
Yeah, it's an insane deal. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, I just wanted to give at least one in-depth deal example, but then we ended up buying another property 0.2 miles down the street, distressed seller. We bought a duplex for $170K, which was crazy, in New England. And then we ended up buying a place back toward our hometown. So I'm from Central Mass. We were living in Central Connecticut for 3 months. we ended up wanting to move back because we were far away from friends and family, not that far away, but like an hour. And so we ended up buying the property we actually live in now for most of the time, which is a kind of a weird mixed use property where there's like a 1 bed, 1 bath, detached little, I guess you could call it a living area, probably a barn in a previous life. That's where me and my fiance Lauren live. And then we rent out the rest of the property, which is a 4 bed, 2 bath apartment attached to 600 square feet of office space for $2,500 a month. So we're actually making about $800 every month from our living situation. So that's kind of brings us to the end of 2020 though, in terms of what I was doing. We have those 3 properties and yeah, made about $200K.
Okay, so the portfolio was the 200K in income, and then also the 2 properties generating, or that's all inclusive.
I mean, we bought those properties toward the end of the year, so they didn't really
Okay.
have much rental income. So I mean, maybe we had like 10 or 15 grand in income from those properties, but it wasn't anything substantial at that point because we bought that first one in September.
Okay, great. So that's end of 2020. Now getting into 2021, what other ventures were you getting into?
So kind of persisting with the same ventures. We were even going more all in on this ePrintables course, the one, the digital products course teaching people Etsy and Shopify, because that was just really taking off. We were starting to just form better relationships with affiliates. Me and my partner Julie were like starting to get some notoriety. We're getting picked up by big media, and like every time we get a big media hit, we get a whole rush of people joining the course. We started to see some real student successes as well. So, we had students who had joined in mid 2019 who in 2021, like one of our best students got featured in CNBC. It was like millennial mom in California made 130K on Etsy last year on the side. And you can imagine what an article like that does for our course. Like it's just a flood of people come in. So we started seeing some like real success stories. So we started doubling down, making the course like as good as possible because we knew it was working, and that's why it was so successful. Like you can only pull the wool over people's eyes for so long. Like if the course didn't work, we probably wouldn't have sold many in 2020 because people are like, we're not making money from this. So we started doubling down, long story short, in 2021, just like building systems, getting in more into analytics. Still actively looking for properties. Ended up buying another triplex in May of 2021. Did I purchase anything else in 2021? I don't think so. Actually, I got into a syndication as well. So for those who are wondering what that is, it's basically like you pool your money together with a bunch of other investors, and you're all going together on some like massive property. It could be like 100-unit apartment complex. So I invested in a syndication. Actually, an interesting opportunity came across my plate. This is, right at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So that dude, Grant Sabatier, that I mentioned, the one who I went on the book tour with, the Motley Fool acquired his company, millennialmoney.com, in, I think, late 2019. I think it was like October or something. And they needed someone to come on who had SEO experience, who knew Grant, who kind of knew his voice, his mission and stuff. And so Grant, like, had them hit me up, and we worked out a number, and I was basically like a consultant/contractor for them. I was working for about like 10 to 15 hours a week, making really good money. And I did that for all of 2021. That actually ended a couple months ago in the beginning of 2022 because they ended up dissolving their whole portfolio. Again, that's a whole nother podcast. But let's see, what else did I focus on? I guess we just started kind of building out, going back to digital products. Not only were we going all in on the course, but we started to build like a digital product ecosystem. So we started to add in like ebooks and mini courses and just all these little add-ons that, people would buy that were already in our community who maybe they already bought the course, or maybe they can't afford the course, or maybe the course isn't for them at this time. So it just added to our revenue, and it just gave us a more diverse offering. And we've continued, especially in 2022, to just build that out and try to diversify our digital income streams as much as possible, just in case something were to happen to that online course for whatever reason, it gets unpopular, it gets shut down, something. Now we have all these other things that we're offering as well as like ancillary products that are somewhat related, but they're not the same product. So that was another thing we really kind of honed in on in 2021, was just like getting a whole suite of products rather than just having one online course to sell.
So as far as the ebooks and the are you like there writing them yourself? Like, are you dedicating time to actually write these books? Because it does that, like, it's to write a ebook of value takes effort and it takes time on the side, and that it becomes passive income after you write it. Like, you're putting the time up front. Like, is that something that you worked on for a while? Like before
Beginning of
before it made anything?
2021, yeah, we were doing most of the work ourselves. We were writing the ebooks. We were like designing them too in Canva, just because we didn't trust other people to do the work. And this is before I got good at outsourcing. We had a couple people working for us at that point, but I was just like very protective of the quality of the stuff we were putting out, and I've
Yeah.
been slowly getting over that because I'm kind of a perfectionist. But yeah, at the beginning, beginning of 2021 and before, we were basically creating all of our products. We have since started outsourcing stuff, having people create ebooks and templates and all that stuff for us. But yeah, I mean, we kind of just did it the old-fashioned way. We were just grinding away. I mean, they take a long time, like you said, especially to have a value-packed ebook that also looks good, not just like a Word document. It's tough. It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end. I mean, if you end up making a couple, multiple five figures on it, then it's probably a worthwhile investment, which
Of
we have on
course.
some of our e-products like that.
Wow. And like, how big is your team? Like, how big is the team that's working on these products, the digital
Today
products?
or in 2021?
Uh, 2021, since we're going in chronological order, and also today, like, if you don't mind, like, doing both.
Yeah, so in 2021, we had, I think, 3 people working as our Facebook group experts. So basically, we have like a paid Facebook group. It's a membership portion that people opt into as part of the course, and like it gives them ongoing support. They get live Q&A. They get access to just a bunch of bonus resources. So we have 3 Facebook groups experts in there who are paid to literally sit in the Facebook group and answer questions like all day. So we had them at that time. We also had my fiance, who's actually working for us, doing like a lot of the customer service stuff, so answering a lot of the emails and some admin work. What else do we have at that point? I honestly think that might have been it. We were a pretty lean team at that point. Oh, we might have
Yeah.
had someone who did like graphic design office hours once a month, but they were, they're very loosely on our staff. It wasn't really much, but yeah, it was like probably a team of, I would say, 5 to 6 total in the beginning of 2021. Fast forward to today, and we have 13 or 14 people working for us, depending on the month and what's going on.
That's awesome. And part because I know a lot of people in the Fi community have been really advocating for virtual assistants, and that's something that we were looking at, even with us, like to help with back end work and to also do a little bit of to kind of prioritize our time a little bit better. And have you ever utilized a virtual assistant before?
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of these contractors we have working for us are virtual assistants, and I've also, this is just in Gold City Ventures in that company. I've also like have virtual assistants for myself too. I've had someone manage social media. I have a full-time video editor right now. Like I'm all for hiring VAs because it just saves you so much time. And again, it's something that I've been slowly getting better at, is like leveraging and scaling my time, because I used to always just want to do everything myself because like I thought I could do it better. But now it just saves me so much time. Like something that would have taken me 5 hours before now takes me 15 minutes because I have other people doing the other 4 hours and 45 minutes of it.
That's awesome. And like, if you don't mind being a little bit specific about like how you even like got a VA, because I know there's people that probably like are the same as you, like when you were initially, where you try to be in control of everything, you think that you could do it the best, and and you probably can do it the best, but like in order to scale, you do need help. Like where do you go to get one?
So it depends on what the VA is doing. So we kind of have a mix of VAs. So if you need someone that's customer facing, talking to people, emailing with people, you probably want someone who's like a native English speaker. For us, we got people like within our own community. So we actually have someone working for us now who is like a student of ePrintables, our flagship course, who just absolutely crushed it. And we ended up hiring her and like bringing her onto the team because she was just such a good fit. Like she knew everything about our business. She knew everything about Etsy and digital products and selling online. So she just crushes it. If it's something more like data entry, so yeah, that first part is like if it's someone that you need to be like, customer facing, talking to people, probably hire someone that's maybe part of your community, someone that's in the field, someone that knows what they're doing. Maybe they have a little bit of experience. But if it's something like data entry, we've actually hired a lot of people from the Philippines on this website, onlinejobs.ph. It's a website. We actually had the founder of it on my podcast. That's been extremely helpful, and their English is pretty good, and they can do a lot of tasks that a native English speaker can do as well. They just you probably wouldn't want someone from the Philippines on the phone closing like real estate deals for you, just because there is that little bit of a language barrier, and emailing as well. I mean, you might find someone that's okay at emailing, but yeah, I mean, it totally depends on the task in terms of where I'm finding a VA, but those are the kind of the two routes that I've taken so far.
Yeah, so like that area of passive income from the digital products is just mind-boggling to me. And like as far as moving forward to like 2022, I know we kind of skipped a little bit for you to say how big your team is nowadays. So like how are you guys progressing now with the digital products compared
It's
to like
just been
2021?
it was kind of, yeah, I mean, just like from 2021 to the end of 2021 into 2022, it's just been like optimizing and scaling and building. Nothing has really changed much about like the way our business operates or like what we're doing. It's just like, we're adding different products to our Shopify store. We're adding additional ebooks. We're getting on different podcasts, webinars, big media features. Like just we're basically feeding the top of the funnel because we've already built out like an entire email series. We've already have all these freebies and all the back end systems set up. It's mostly just like kind of getting people in front of our product, in front of us, let them know what we're all about, let them know that digital products are a fantastic way to make passive income, tell them all about Etsy. And yeah, so that we've really, really focused on like honing that customer journey throughout 2021 into 2022. One thing that we have started to do in terms of Gold City Ventures in 2022 that's separate from just Etsy and selling digital products, we've actually started to partner with some people and form joint ventures. So we've kind of dominated the Etsy space, and there are other people in the space, but we've done really, really well. We've built a multi 7-figure business in 3 years. And so basically what we've done is we've kind of just taken all of the things that we've learned and like written them all down. We made like a mini course and have all these templates. And we actually started to do joint ventures with people in different niches and different silos and help them launch our online course. And so, we take an equity stake. It's kind of like Shark Tank. And we bring our expertise. We bring like our templates and our packaging and like our strategies and models and all that stuff. And, they have a successful launch. We make money. They make money. Everyone's happy. And, that's something we just started in 2022, but that's what I'm kind of seeing as the future for Gold City Ventures and for our courses.
So you're working together with content creators. Like, what are they in the same space that you are in? Like, is it like in people in the financial like independence community, people that are trying to start a podcast, or somebody that's looking to diversify their products online? Are these people in the same space that we are in?
That's a good question. And so far, mostly, but I think that's mainly because that's kind of the space that we're known and the spaces that we operate in. So all the people that we've signed JV contracts with so far are kind of in like the online make money, that type of space. It's not, we don't have anyone who's competing with each other, but like people that are doing short-term rentals, finances for people who are married with kids, branding courses. Like we kind of have, yeah, it's all kind of in that same make money online space so far. Yeah. Is the people that we've been working with.
So your goal this year is just to expand that network and trying to help other people expand their business online, their footprint online.
Yeah, I think that's the next iteration and like how we get to the next level of business as well, because we're still doing really well with our ePrintables course, that main course, but if we can just scale to an even bigger level by bringing on all these partners, kind of repackaging our expertise and what's worked so well for us and giving it to them and their respective niche, that's what we're hoping is going to take us kind of like to the next rung, the next level of success in entrepreneurship.
To add on to that, like since we're here, like we just started our podcast, and you've had a podcast for a long time, and that's probably something that you're helping other people with as well. Like, what about podcasts do you think it like works for as another stream of income? Like, that's something that we're trying to learn. This is part of the reason why we started the podcast. We're trying to see how we can add value to people, but also see what can this become. Where can we use this to our advantage?
Yeah, so I'd say there's probably 3 main ways to make money with podcasts. One is selling your own products or services. So if you guys did any kind of coaching, or if you had a course, or if you had ebooks, that's something that you could naturally promote on your podcast. And your listeners, if they're interested in what you're talking about in the podcast and that thing that you're selling or the thing that you're promoting has anything to do with it, they're probably going to be somewhat interested. So that's one way you can make money in a podcast. I know people who are consultants that have podcasts, and even that they get one client, even if they don't have a ton of listeners. Say they have 100 listeners, but they have one client that signs on for $10K for the year or whatever. That's a pretty good investment, and it's just one person. So that's one way, selling your own products or services. 2 is affiliate marketing, where you're selling other people's products and services that are in line with your audience. Like I know a really popular one in the personal finance, financial independence space is Personal Capital. We've promoted them. We've worked with them on our podcast as well. And so we've gotten paid affiliate commission when people sign up through our links. The third way is through advertisers or sponsors. So for those who have listened to podcasts, you've probably heard these ad spots, whether they're in the beginning or in the middle, at the end. But yeah, I mean, all three are viable strategies. It totally depends on, what your podcast is. Is your niche big enough where, you are going to actually make a lot of money with like a sponsor, for example? Because usually these like advertisers, that's how we primarily monetize. That only works if you have like a pretty solid listener base. Like if you have 100 listeners per week, you're not going to be making a lot of money if you have sponsors. But, in that example with the consultant, if you have 100 listeners and one of them signs on and pays you 10 grand to consult, to consult with you, that's a great ROI. So it kind of totally depends on what you're looking for, Paulino. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ways to make money with a podcast once you build up that listener base.
Yeah, for sure. I asked because like I have a friend also that's starting a podcast. He's a physical therapist, and he came to me. He was like, "Hey, listen, I want to start a podcast. Like, is it like what's a way that I can make money?" I was like, "Hey, listen, like your first point is that you don't even need to have a big following. If you have one or two people sign up, it's already worthwhile."
Yeah, yeah. He signs one like online physical therapy client or something. I mean, I don't know what that costs, but probably a decent ROI.
Oh, of course. Phil, you got anything?
No. I think it was a really great interview. I think it's time to wrap up. I think we have 3 questions that we like to end every interview with. It'll be one personal, one professional, and one random. And the random one could be a little goofy. It can be out there. So, Paulino, you want to start?
Sorry, I don't have it up. So if you want to do the first one,
the personal is what's a habit or trait you're working on to get better in?
I think being more intentional with my time, and I'm already okay at that, but sometimes I'll find myself just like doing something that I didn't set out to do. Like even if it's something that seems productive, I call it procrastitasking, where like you are doing something that you feel like you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm being productive. Like I'm crushing these emails." But you probably went on the computer to, record a podcast or record a video, and then like all of a sudden you're not doing that thing. You're just doing something else that makes you feel busy. So I have totally been a culprit of that, and I still do that to this day. I'm trying to get better at just like I am on the computer or I'm doing this thing for this reason, and that is all that I'm going to do for the next hour or half an hour or whatever. So that's something I'm actively working on.
So like the time blocking and like focusing on that.
Exactly.
Do you do that? Do you like plan your schedule like very specifically, or do you keep a mental note of what you do?
It's mostly like I'll have a list in the morning of like these are the 3 main things that I want to get done today, and then there's always ancillary stuff that just pops up. So I'll kind of take that in stride if I can, but I always try to make sure I get like those 3 big ticket items. Like I want to get this, and this done today. Those are the 3 top things on my priority list, and sometimes unfortunately other things distract me, but I want to get better at that, where I just like table everything else until those are done.
So also adding on to that, I know that we had 3 questions, but I'm kind of curious about like the way that you manage your life and also your work stuff. So like adding to that, like so socially, how does it having all these ventures and all these businesses and all these investment stuff that you do, how does it affect your social life? Like, are you able to have fun and still enjoy your time? Are you still able to go out to dinner with your fiance? Like, how often do you do that? Like, what do you think? Like, or what's your experience with that?
Less than all of my friends.
Oh, really?
Like, I just traveled for the entire month of May in Europe and worked about an hour to an hour and a half a day.
Wow.
Like I said, it's like I've built these systems where a lot of it's passive. Most of the reason I work and do stuff is just because like I am hungry. I just like building businesses. It's fun for me. Like it's kind of become a strategic game at this point. It's not even about the money. It's about just like the getting to the next level, bettering myself. But yeah, I mean, we go out to eat all the time. We're out every weekend doing stuff. We travel a ton. We've taken like multiple month trips. Like I said, we just got back from a month trip a few weeks ago. And yeah, man, we're living it up.
That's awesome. I saw that post that you made recently on your Instagram that you said that you got bottle service when you guys went out, and you were like, that's not gonna, like, I can enjoy myself. I can get bottle service as long as I'm doing the things that I got to do on the, like, in the financially, like the being responsible with the other things, that when you go out, you can actually enjoy yourself. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel the same
100%.
way. Yeah.
It's not a deprivation journey.
Yeah, exactly. I think people do think that it is. Like they get afraid to kind of devote their time and effort to this lifestyle, but it actually, you don't really need to sacrifice too much, I feel like, if you prioritize. Also, so I'll ask the next question. So it's one professional question here. Where do you see yourself professionally in 5 to 10 years?
I think I'm going to own a ton of businesses. I'm going to continue to expand real estate, digital products. I have some lofty income goals. I want to hit in the next, you said 5 to 10 years?
Yeah.
I want to hit $10 million in income in the next 5 to 7 years.
Per year.
Oh, man.
In a year. That's
Like-
a crazy goal. But if I say it out loud, it'll be more likely.
Yeah, $10 million per year. You're saying?
Just,
By the
yeah,
end of-
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's athlete money.
if I can do it, we'll see. But if I say it and put it out there, it has a higher chance of happening. So,
Absolutely. Phil, you got the last one?
Yep. Last one, a random one. If you can make one thing illegal, what would it be?
oh man,
Putting him on the spot.
I know. One thing illegal, what would it be?
It could be anything. Doesn't have to be related to finance or anything, ever investing, nothing like that. Anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what is one thing that just irks me to no
It
end.
could literally be like anything that just bothers you. Like
See, now that we asked the
I-
question, I can't even think of it.
I
Go
am
ahead.
going to go with people. This sounds horrible. I'm gonna go with complaining about your situation and not doing anything about it.
Oh yeah. That's literally everyone.
That might push some buttons, but I'm a doer.
Yeah, expand on that.
I think a lot of people will just constantly complain about their situation, and then they know all the popular shows on Netflix. They know all the hit songs. They're, going out every night of the week. And that's fine. Like once you get to a certain point, maybe you can do that. But if you don't have any kind of a financial footing, or you're not okay, whether it's financially, physically, emotionally, in your relationships, like if you have problems with any of those things, that should be at the forefront of what you're focusing on. And, you should focus on that instead of just like, I don't know, trying to cope with those things by watching TV or eating junk food or whatever your coping mechanism might be. I just see so many people that complain and then don't do anything about the thing that they're complaining about.
Fair enough. Yeah, you just hear people complaining and begging for rules to change instead of providing value and working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Cody, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like it was an absolute pleasure. You gave us a lot of nuggets, a lot of like quality moments in this podcast that I think people will actually take home and use in their actual investment strategies in their life.
Well, thank you both for having me. This was a ton of fun, and hopefully the listeners can take away some things. I was just kind of spewing all the stuff that I've been doing over the past. When did we start? 2017 with this podcast? Yeah, the past 5 years. So it's been a wild ride, but like anything is possible. And that sounds so silly and cliche, but I was able to hit 7 figures net worth in 3 years, like from 2019 to 2022, which is just crazy. Like I never, ever, ever would have expected that if you told me that when I quit my job back in the beginning of 2019 that was possible. But if you implement some of the things I talk about today, I'm not saying you're going to have the exact same journey as me, but you're going to be well on your way to, having enough passive income to do whatever you want and hit financial independence.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Cody. And how can people find out more about you?
Well, if you listen to podcasts like this one, you can also check out my podcast, The Fi Show, where we talk all things financial independence, interview guests, share tips, tools, tactics, strategies. And then if you're interested in anything I was talking about with the digital product stuff, it's goldcityventures.com. Actually, I'll give away an ebook to your audience as well. We usually sell it, but I'll just give it away since you guys are awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
goldcityventures.com/ebook, and that'll bring people to the free page for the ebook instead of the paid version. And that's the ebook is basically focusing on how to create digital products in like using a seasonal strategy, kind of like how I made the $700 in 1 week during Valentine's Day, how to kind of replicate that strategy all year round. So that's free if you go in goldcityventures.com/ebook.
Awesome. Thank you, Cody, so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, take care. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like the show, please leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on Instagram at CuriousInvestFI. All this helps support our podcast.
Ciao.
Ciao.